Hey fight fans, Chaz Bryant here. I'm just getting back from another exciting work trip from the beautiful, I've been all over the country this past year for work, and I've seen some exciting places. Hollywood, Dallas, Texas is beautiful, Miami. I just came back from Newark, New Jersey, and that's not really one of them. But I'm still excited to be home this time around because I'm able to be home for Fight 423 coming up on Saturday. We've got some interviews coming up for you and some great analysis with the voice of Fight For It, Mr. Dylan McGrath. So let's go ahead. Let's get into it right now. As I make my way from my car to the airport, I want you to watch this interview with DeAndre Williamson. This is a big boy, and he's got a big title fight coming up. Let's see what he has to say about this matchup.
I'm feeling pretty excited. I have some experience fighting fighting in front of big crowds, and with a little bit of weight behind it. So I'm excited.
What are the people, because they've probably never seen you, what are the people of the Queen City expecting from you on Saturday night?
Definitely a lot of movement. I've done my research on this guy. He's a pretty sized dude, and I've seen him. He's a tank for sure. So it's gonna be definitely a lot of fireworks, a lot of head movement. We're gonna bang it out, that's for sure.
Absolutely. How is the mix between the street beefs experience and this traditional fight kickboxing experience? How is that a benefit either way?
I think the street beefs experiences gave me a lot of this real world combat experience and full contact. A lot of guys, they start out with like PKBs and like point boxing tournaments and things like that. And I started out with full contact, so I already know what it feels like to get hit. I don't have to question my fight or flight. I know what's going to happen whenever I get punched. So I don't have any questions going into it. That nervousness isn't really a factor for me. I mean, everyone feels it. You still get a little nervous when you walk into that cage, but it's not overwhelming. It's not something that I'm new to now.
Well, we look forward to seeing you on Saturday night, DeAndre. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely, bro. No problem.
All right, so I'm finally at my car here, and there's always some late-breaking information at these fights. So we have some from Mr. Dylan McGrath. He's going to share some of the information and some of the analysis, and I'm going to go home because it's pretty cold out here.
So first, I wanted to make a mention of the short-notice bout between Jacob Pais and Tyler Kirkpatrick. Now, because this fight came together on the last 10 days or so, maybe a lot of people don't even know that it's happening yet, and if you are a Fight For It fan, trust me, this is a fight for you, because Tyler Kirkpatrick, Jacob Pais, obviously we know Jacob Pais, but if you've been watching Tyler Kirkpatrick on the last few Fight For It shows, you fight scary as he's become more confident in that cage, and he is a guy with power in his hands. He can hurt them on the feet and then submit them on the ground, or he can just straight up ground and pound for the TKO. He's in a system, in a gym, a part of a team that really keeps the striking pressure up, even in those traditional wrestling heavy and jiu-jitsu heavy type positions that Jacob's used to being in. However, that does sometimes play into Jacob Pais' strengths. He does like for you to posture up and punch, because sometimes that gives him the opening he likes to make space or invert you or invert himself even. And I think the big question on everyone's mind is, how healthy is Jacob? Because it is a super quick turnaround for him from the last fight that he had, where he had that strange kind of arm break dislocation. And on the call, we think it's an arm break, but now 2020 hindsight, we can see it was dislocated. And while dislocation can have some lingering damage, it would appear that he is 100% and ready to go. And if he is, then we certainly have a great fight on our hands. Another question that could be in the forefront of people's mind is, was the blueprint of how to beat Jacob Pais put out there by D. Reddick in the last fight? And can Tyler Kirkpatrick implement a similar strategy of staying on the outside and not really engaging in any of the close clinching situations? And will that be enough? Now, in the first round, look for Tyler Kirkpatrick to be very heavy-handed, and I would look at Jacob, because it's Jacob who will probably be the surprise player here. He could come with a new game, a new mentality, or just a new approach. We know he's creative. We know he's an incredible grappler. We know he is very innovative with the submission game. Can he bring new tools to the table since that injury and bring a new box of tricks into the cage against Tyler Kirkpatrick? We're going to find out this Saturday at the Grady Cole Center.
All right, so this 185 title between Noah Horowitz and David Harrison, It looks to be a real banger. Two guys from opposite ends of the North Carolina. Two guys who had a great 2024 year. And at the end of the year, coming up on Saturday, they go for a title. I spoke to them to see what their impressions are on this fight. You're staying busy this year. This is your 7th time in the cage or the ring in 2024. How important is it to you to stay busy or stay hungry?
I wanted this for a long time, so I'm blessed that I'm with a team that's able to put me in position to fight as much as possible. I feel like that's the only way to get better. I mean, you want to be a fighter, you got to fight. I mean, you can go, hit pads and spar with the same people and kind of stay within like a small pond, so to speak. Where you got to put yourself out there, you got to get exposed, you got to rectify your flaws and just learn. I mean that's at least my ideology. Like I thought that was the point. As a fighter, you're supposed to fight. That's our job. Win, lose or draw. Your job is to fight. So, like I said, that's my mentality going into it.
Absolutely. There's always lessons to be learned. And speaking of that, your last fight in Philadelphia didn't really go the way you wanted to. What did you take out of that fight?
That was definitely it was a mental thing for me. I was questioning myself, and in doing so caused me to hesitate, giving my opponent the advantage. He was the better man that night, so I don't take anything from him. It was one of those things where I beat myself. I felt like I was out of my comfort zone, and like I said, it was mental. It was definitely mental. And the longer you start to do this, you start to see like, okay, you think fighting's all about training the physical side. You think, oh man, if I just get strong enough to do this, and I work on my cardio, work on my punches, work on my technique, you think everything. That's all it is to it. Like, nah, it's the mental side of it. So it's just trusting yourself that you know what to do. Don't overthink. Um, just do. Let your body knows what it needs to do. So I didn't allow my body to do its job, basically.
Absolutely. And some of the people who are helping you do your job are the good team you have around you at Highest Stand MMA. You're looking to pick up your first MMA title belt, if I'm correct. How important is it for you to get a early submission, or does it really matter? Does you just grind it out for all 5 rounds for that title fight?
Uh, Obviously, victory is the goal. What form that takes, like I said, martial arts is an art first and foremost. So I'm not going to try to dictate or say how it has to be. Like I said, the end result is all that matters. Like I said, I'm not standing in my way. I'm not gonna, allow myself. I'm not hindering myself or keeping myself from being able to do my job. So, I mean, I have a lot of people that have put me in this position. So, like I said, I got a job to do. We're just gonna we're gonna get it done, you know.
And the job will be had on Saturday, the 14th. Good luck to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Noah, you're coming to this side of the Tar Heel State. We haven't seen you inside the cage because you've been mainly on the East Coast along the Wilmington coast. What are we expecting? What are the folks in the Queen City expecting out of you on Saturday night?
Nothing but entertainment. I don't really just go in there to win. I go in there to make it worth it for everybody involved. You know what I'm saying? I don't if you look at my past fights, I only have that one decision, and the rest of them, it's going to end at some point, no matter what. So you can expect a lot of entertainment.
Absolutely, because the past 3 fights, if I'm correct on this research, your past 3 fights have ended in either a first round or the second round, and the past 2 have been in KOs. So the folks in the seats, they should be glued for a KO possibly going into this fight.
Possibly. I mean, I'll end it any way that I can. Whatever comes to me, I'll take it, and it's going to be exciting. To say the least, especially since I don't know if he's based in Charlotte or not. I don't recall exactly, but I know I'm going to have a lot of people. He'll probably have a lot of people. It's probably going to be one of the best fights on the entire card. And it's usually how it goes. I like to put my all into it, and I'd like to make it exciting. You know what I'm saying?
And speaking of your opponent, David Harrison, since this is for the title belt, have you seen anything on David? And is there anything, without possibly giving anything away, you think you can possibly capitalize with him?
I have watched everything I can find. I do a lot of studying on everybody I fight. It's more so just to try and put myself in front of them, and view myself with the things they throw, the things they like to do. Make sure I'm prepared for anything that comes at me. Or as, I mean, obviously, he probably feels the same way. We always see stuff that we think, that I can capitalize on this, I can capitalize on that. But at the end of the day, we don't really know till we get in there. But there's definitely a few things where I feel like I can have the upper hand for sure.
Absolutely. Noah Starowitz, thank you very much for joining me here.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Featured favorite bouts of the night, if not my most anticipated fight of the night overall for this entire fight card, which if you look at this fight card top to bottom, it's pretty crazy of me to say that, but Noah Starowitz versus David Harrison. I think this is a fight where a future name of the Carolinas will be made. Noah, I have trained with. He's come into Hometown Martial Arts several times. I've seen him spar our people. I've seen him spar people from other gyms. I know how good he is. I've watched his other fights. I know how good he is. David Harrison had an incredible performance last time out against Austin Littlejohn at our last Fight Forward show. And he's just a very scary individual. Once again, a member of that highest on team. And every time I listen to an interview, just like Chaz's interview, I'm hearing the right things. I'm hearing what you expect to hear from a fighter. But just from being on the mat with David a little bit at Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu Academy in the past couple weeks and getting a couple rounds with him, there's more to him than meets the eye, for sure. He's a very cerebral guy, but more importantly, he's just a guy who's always looking to improve. I train very often at Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and over the past month and a half, or 2 months even, that I've been in there, almost every time that I've stopped in to train on a Saturday, David Harrison has been there working on his grappling. And when I spoke to him about his last matchup, he said, I feel like I put the picture in people's minds that they could beat me if they grapple me. And I was like, well, it's not like he got taken down and choked out, but that's how much of a perfectionist this guy is. He was grappled, even though he was not taken down very much or even really put into a bad position in that last fight. He has been working relentlessly on the grappling for this camp, so I'm excited to see what comes of that. David Harrison does not have a nickname yet, but he should have a nickname, probably something like Punisher or Body Count, something like that, because this guy from his first Muay Thai fight is capable of putting down people fast. We didn't get to see him really touch Littlejohn early with a strike that could end it, but this guy has so much power in his hands, and now he's also bringing the wrestling and grappling to the table. Hopefully he's made some improvements in that area as well. I'm looking for a much more aggressive David Harrison here, a David Harrison that's eager to get the finish early, because Noah Starowitz is definitely going to have a little bit of an advantage in the experience department, but these two men are pretty physically evenly matched up, and I think that it is the technical savvy or the amount of mat time that Noah has in the actual cage and actual fight time that will make a big difference in this one if it goes past the first 2 minutes. I think in that first 120 seconds, you will find very few men at that weight class that are as dangerous as David Harrison.
Now, two guys looking to add to that great legacy of fights in Charlotte, North Carolina are Noah Lindsay and John Martin. Now, if you haven't heard of Noah Lindsay, he's been fighting throughout the Southeast, and I believe he's making his first foray in the Charlotte, North Carolina region. Now, John Martin is a current title holder. He's looking to keep that belt. Both of these two guys have putting on a tear in 2024. A lot of wins, maybe 1 or 2 losses and bumps along the way, but they still keep grinding on, and they put out some great fights. Dylan McGrath has analysis on this fight.
Of course, I'd be quite remiss not to talk about Jonathan Martin, the Phenom, versus Noah Lindsay, our main event at the Grady Cole Center this weekend. It is also a very promising matchup and not the type of matchup we have seen Jonathan in previously. So Jonathan Martin, of course, a member of that CCS team. You probably just saw him last weekend in Vegas as he helped his teammate Brian battle in the corner as Brian was victorious over Randy Brown. Jonathan looking to carry that momentum for his team straight back into the Carolinas in this main event against Noah. Noah may be a newcomer to Fight For It. If you're a Fight For It fan, you may not recognize his name right off the bat, but if you look at his resume, you'll see a lot of showcase fights and you'll see a lot of fighters that will be familiar to Fight For It fans, and he has defeated some of them. Very much an impressive grappler, especially from the bottom. There was a guy in his amateur career that he managed to finish by triangle in 40 seconds. They rematched again. Immediately, he gets him in a triangle first round, 55 seconds, so it takes him a little bit longer, but to be able to fight a guy twice, quick succession, finish him the same way in less than a minute, Very, very impressive stuff. And that was back in his amateur days, and he's only gotten better since then. Definitely a complete mixed martial artist, just like Jonathan. But I will say, I do think he is a jiu-jitsu-based, submission-based grappler, a little bit more heavily in that kind of area than Jonathan is. So I think the difference maker here could be along the fence line. Jonathan's MMA grappling is very competent and very good against the fence. And if Noah Lindsay is well trained in that department, if he's able to get off of the fence without getting his back taken or getting taken down, this could become a very interesting matchup very quickly between two very, very high-level grapplers here on the local scene in Charlotte. So we will see you there at the Grady Cole Center, one of our favorite venues in the Carolinas. And I'll just tell a little story for your listeners, Chaz. Back in the day, my mom and dad had their first date at the Grady Cole Center. They saw a man they call Vanilla Ice in concert. So a little bit of that magic from that night probably still resides here in these veins. Who knows?
Gotta love that old school Vanilla Ice. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you for the commentary and your analysis throughout the full report. Folks, make sure you're there on Saturday night. Make sure you get your ticket for the Grady Cole Center. Now, if you're like me throughout the year, you could be there in person. Make sure you go and visit Fight For It, their website, and get the official pay-per-view. Don't stand for any of these invitations. They're just going to get your money. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a great end of 2024 and looking even better for 2025 for this fight season. So I'll be there on Saturday night. Hope you will be there too. Thanks, everybody.